Um, Lastly, we will talk about 8.3, which is using light energy to make organic molecules, or we also know it as the light independent reaction or the Calvin cycles. So this is a picture that you've seen before already detailing photosynthesis. So this is our light-dependent reactions that we just talked about, where they use light energy to excite electron, pass it on electron transport in order to make ATP and NADPH, our waste product, which is essentially oxygens from the splitting of water molecules. This is the oxygen that the plants gives off. From this process, they make ATP and NADPH that will go into the Calvin cycle or the light independent reactions, where they take CO2 and convert that to Ga3P, which is a sugar precursor. You will take two of these molecules to make one molecule of glucose. We will now be seeing the overviews of the Calvin cycles. So it is a light independent reaction. So again, it's independent in a sense that it does not require the input of photon of light, but it still requires that ATP and NADPH which are the product of the light dependent reactions. So they require CO2, which is from the air, and these carbon dioxide will reach our mesophyll cells by going through the stomata. So they just go by these fusions. And there's three stages. Stage one is the carbon fixation. So you will fix carbon from the air into organic compounds. Stage two will be reductions, where you reduce this molecule. So again, this is the We'll talk about this name in a little bit, but you will reduce these molecules to form this Ga3P, and then from here you need to recycle these molecules to make the reactant that you start with in the process of the regeneration of RuBP. So now we will talk about each of these stages in more details. So in the first steps is fixation. So carbon fixation is called fixation because you're fixing an inorganic carbon dioxide molecules into an organic molecules. So within this cycles, you already have three molecules of RuBP, and you have an enzyme called Rubisco will catalyze the reactions of RuBP to combining with carbon dioxide to make two molecules of 3-PGA. So this molecule has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 carbon combining with 1 carbon. So in a total, they can make a 6 carbon molecules. However, that molecules will break in half and make 2 3 carbon molecules, which is our 3-PGA. So in total, in order to form an appropriate amount of product at the end, we will need 3 carbon dioxide and 3 RuBP to make 6 3-PGA in this carbon fixation steps. So again, carbon, you obtain that from the air, and the RuBP has already existed in the Calvin cycles. So this is already there. This 3 carbon dioxide will enter the cycle, combining then with the RuBP to make 3-PGA. In stage number 2, we have the reductions of PGA or 3-PGA. Again, oil rig, so oxidation is losing electron, while reductions is gaining electron. So our 3-PGA molecules will actually gain electron from this step and get more energy from this step. So you're using up ATP and NADPH from the light-dependent reaction in order to generate Ga3P. So this is an important molecule. It is actually a sugar precursors. So you have 6 molecules here with 3 carbon. You're making a modified version of that molecules. Again, still have 3 carbon. There is 6 of them at this point. So that's stage 2, where you reduce 3-PGA. After reduced 3-PGA, you're making Ga3P right here, that is actually almost to the step of completion of sugar already. So one of them will actually leave the Calvin cycle and will become half molecules of sugar, because they are, as you can see, 1, 2, 3 carbon, and our sugar has 6 carbon. So you will need 2 molecules of Ga3P in order to form that glucose. So in the exam, you should be able to look at this pathway and realize that you need 2 molecules of Ga3P in order to form 1 molecule of glucose, because this is a 6 carbon molecules, while Ga3P is a 3 carbon molecules. The rest of the Ga3P, which are 5 molecules, they will stay within the Calvin cycle and go through stage 3, which is where you regenerate RuBP, which is what you started with. So this is a 3 carbon molecules, and you need to make, so you have 5 3 carbon molecules, which you have 15 carbons in total. You will need to regenerate that and make 3 5 carbon molecules, which is our RuBP, and in that step you actually use up another 3 ATP to perform that steps. So here is a little confusing part. The Calvin cycle is depicted here actually depicts 3 turns of the Calvin cycle, because each turn of the Calvin cycle only 1 carbon dioxide. Actually, let me go back to that slide. Only 1 CO2 per turn. And in here you actually see 3 CO2 molecules per turn. So you need to turn this 3 times in order to make enough 3 carbon molecules, which is the Ga3P, is in order to produce your glucose. So you need to turn this 3 times, and the turn is not really a turn, but basically going through this cycle 3 times in the turn, because we depict it here as a circular fashion, so we call it a turn. So here we already see it as a 3 turns. So if I ask you what is 1 molecule of CO2 will make, it will only make 1/3 of Ga3P theoretically, and that will only make even less of our sugar molecule. That will make 1/6 of our sugar molecules, because you're taking these 3 carbon dioxide, make this 3 carbon molecules here, and then eventually make 6. So you will be required to make a 6 turn to make the molecules of sugar, glucose, and you would require 6 carbon. So make sure you are able to keep that carbon count in check. And it's pretty easy. So 6 carbon dioxide to make 6 sugar molecules, so 6 turn. This is a 3 carbon molecule, so you will need 3 molecules of CO2. That would be 3 turns of the Calvin cycles. So make sure you keep that in check. So that basically concludes our 3 steps of our Calvin cycles. And just the last point before I leave you with this chapter is that plants consume carbon dioxide and release that oxygens as a byproduct. It is not a waste, because we, in terms of animal, we use and other heterotrophs, they use oxygens. Majority of them use oxygens and go through cellular respirations and then release carbon dioxide as a byproduct. So it is a cycle between animal and plants that we live together. The gas that we release will be used by them to fix sugar, and the gas that they're releasing will be used by us to break down that sugar into energy that we use. And this is an important part of the carbon cycles that you see in the Earth. So I will see you next time in our chapter 10.